Potentially, the blood test is more accurate. I say potentially because there are a number of things that can go wrong and do go wrong routinely in a blood test, and that's why we have our own forensic toxicologist reanalyze the blood from their crime lab just to confirm, or not, the blood test. One of the things that can go wrong, for example, is fermentation. If blood sits in a vial for an extended period of time without sufficient sodium fluoride or other preservative, and without being refrigerated, then by the time it gets to the lab, it will begin to deteriorate and produce alcohol within the blood. It's an organic substance, and when fermentation takes place, alcohol is produced. A second is coagulation. Again, if the blood is sitting in a vial without anticoagulant, then the blood clots, it coagulates, and as it does, solids form, leaving less liquid. It's the liquid part of the blood, the plasma, that's going to be analyzed. With less liquid, the amount of alcohol proportionally increases, and you're going to have a higher blood alcohol concentration. Finally, and I shouldn't say finally and that these are the only, but the most common, is the chain of custody. And that is, they've got to prove that the blood they tested came from your client. And that's not to be taken for granted. These things can be misplaced, mislabeled in the perhaps a week between the time the police officer gets the blood, goes through the evidence locker, it's transported, goes to the crime lab, is put in a batch of perhaps 40 vials, given numbers, and tested. They can get mixed up. We have had a number of cases where we were convinced the blood was not our client's. We've done blood types. In one case, even though the blood type came back identical, it was an O, very common. So we ran a DNA test. It took about 3 months and quite a bit of money. But it proved that our client was not the person who produced that blood. And not only were the criminal charges dismissed, but the Los Angeles Times featured it on the front page of their Metropolitan edition.